Hi, thank you for joining me. In this episode, I'm going to be sharing with you why we know and believe that the title deed is the most useless piece of documentation in a land transaction. You're watching Own Land in Kenya, and I'm Solomon Mwangwe. The reason we say that the title deed is the most useless or meaningless piece of document in a land transaction, and there are very many reasons. And the reason I wanted to cover this specifically is because very often when companies like ours and individuals are selling properties, they'll say things like clear title, clean title, and how many times have you seen testimonials on TV or on websites or on YouTube where people are holding title deeds, smiling happily about having obtained a title deed because they paid for land? It's because that's what we believe is a safe indication that your transaction was complete. And in reality, the truth is far from it. The title deed is the most useless piece of document in that whole chain of the transaction, simply because it is a token, a representation of something else. It represents a file, and some of them are quite thick. I've seen them because this is what we do, and we have to deal with the land registries. And that file contains a whole range of documentation that give your title deed its life. And if that file is incomplete in any way, then your title deed is subject to challenge, and in very many cases, not even legal. So here are some of the documents that are contained in this file at the ministry registries. The first thing that file contains is what we call a green card. The green card is literally a green card. It's a green manila card, specially produced for the government of Kenya for this specific purpose. And that card contains the history of ownership for that property all the way back from Kenya's independence in 1963. The reason for that date is because that's when all the land in Kenya was transferred legally from the British Crown, which owned all the land in colonial days, to this new government of Kenya. So the green card will show 1963 government of Kenya, and then all the way down to the present. And it will contain things about its ownership. Who owned it first? Was it the government? Did the government sell it to someone? Did that someone die and it was inherited by their children? Did they then sell to someone else? Was it subdivided and resold? All that history will be contained in the green card. And the other thing it'll contain is any records of encumbrances or liens or charges by any banks or lending institutions, because people often buy property because they make very good security instruments when you want to borrow from a bank. And when you do, they register that in the green card, saying that such and such an entity, if it's Goshen Acquisitions, for example, has borrowed such sum of money from, say, Kenya Commercial Bank or CBA, and CBA is now having a claim to this title deed because of that sum of money. And when we pay that lien back, that lien is discharged, or the charge is discharged, and all that information is contained in the green card. The reason it's important is because if you're buying a property and the person has a loan with an institution and they haven't cleared it, legally they are supposed to clear their obligation with the bank before the property can be transferred. In actual fact, the ministry cannot transfer that property to you until that debt obligation is completed or paid off. So it's very important to note. The other thing it will contain is any records of disputes about the property. If there were any court cases, whether they be succession issues, all these will be listed in your green card. And that's the first very important document in the file at the ministry's registries that give life to your title deed. And if any of that information is sideways or inaccurate, then your title deed may not be worth its weight in paper. Very important to know. I hope that information helps. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to reach out to us, our Facebook page, or you can send us an email to enquiry@goshenacquisitions.com. All our social media platforms are up and running. You've been watching Own Land in Kenya. I'm Solomon Wangwe. Stay tuned for more information on strategic land investment.